Am I a joke to you?
Oh, hell yes.
What is up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the notoriously nefarious Dr. Disaster. And while Sony and Sucker Punch have reportedly fired the Ghost of Yotei senior developer who was mocking Charlie Kirk after his death, they have not made any public statement condemning his words. Somehow, they are under the impression that this is all gonna blow over and that they can hide from it.
How can he see me?
Sony decided to confirm this firing to Kotaku in a direct email, which tells you everything you need to know about how Sony actually feels about those of us pushing back against this vile behavior. Kotaku went out and then wrote this article here, condemning us for calling out these pukes who made asses of themselves in public, being okay with political violence and even cheering it on. Never forget that these communist dingleberries over at Kotaku don't have a problem with what happened to Charlie Kirk. Never forget the differences between us.
We are not the same. I'm an American. You're a sick asshole.
But all that being said, Sony and Sucker Punch did make the move to fire this person who made an ass out of themselves, who worked for them, and you have to wonder why that would happen in an environment where these people clearly have no regard for anyone who doesn't buy into their shit-lib worldview. They will not communicate with us, but they will communicate with Kotaku. Clearly they view commie game journalists who will use this information to immediately attack us as their colleagues and mouthpieces.
Did we just become best friends? Yup!
So why would they decide to fire this person? Why not just do nothing? Well, the answer is this, folks. We have too much power these days, and this was already starting to hurt their sales, as I will show you in a few minutes here. Kotaku blames Gamergate 2 for this, and in all honesty, this is bigger than that. The death of Charlie Kirk is much bigger. There just happens to be an overlap between those of us who were a part of Gamergate 2 and those pushing back on Charlie's behalf for the side of decency. But who am I to argue with Kotaku? If they want to resurrect last year's gaming boogeyman, then I don't care. Let them do it. As long as they understand the truth, that things have fundamentally shifted and consequence culture, which is what they called it when they wielded it, but that consequence culture is now being wielded by their opponents and aimed in their direction.
A new power is rising. Its victory is at hand. To war!
Goodbye.
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've had a lot of people tell me recently that they have been unwillingly unsubscribed to the channel, so make sure you check on that. And there's been a lot of talk about restricted mode being automatically enabled for a lot of users on YouTube, which would cut you off from a lot of your favorite channels, so don't forget to check into that as well and to turn it off if it has been turned on and you don't want it. But anyhow, for full context, before we look at the backlash that Sucker Punch was facing, let's look at this Kotaku article. This is who Sony chose to disclose the confirmation of their employees' termination to. I will not be linking to this article in the description of the video because I refuse to send traffic their way. But anyhow, they wrote, a contingent of right-wing online figures and their followers have been using the recent assassination of conservative podcaster Charlie Kirk to punish people they don't like. That includes a developer at Ghost of Yotei maker Sucker Punch Productions, who Sony confirms it has parted ways with after after she made a joke on social media about the shooting. It wasn't a joke, or at least it wasn't only a joke. It was meant to celebrate Charlie's death, and that is why Sony and Sucker Punch removed this person from their company, because we all saw it. Notice how, in this next paragraph, they don't explain this harmless little joke because it makes them and their asinine progressive politics look extremely bad. But they wrote, "I hope the shooter's name is Mario so that Luigi knows his bro got his back. Drew Harrison, a nearly 10-year veteran of the PlayStation studio, posted in the evening after Kirk was shot and killed during a speaking event at Utah Valley University." And then they immediately start going after what Mark Kern said on X, absolutely no explanation for what that Mario quip was supposed to mean, because we all know. This person was referring to Luigi Mangione, an alleged progressive killer who brazenly shot someone in the back for political reasons. We all know what it meant, and they can't hide it. But then, a ways down in the article, they reveal that Sony has contacted them to confirm that Drew Harrison was in fact fired for what she said. The article says here, Harrison subsequently shared on social media that people had been contacting her employer angrily trying to get her fired, and posted a screenshot of a barrage of missed calls from anonymous numbers as evidence of an ongoing harassment campaign. Less than 24 hours later, she was fired. "If standing up against fascism is what cost me my dream job I held for 10 years, I would do it again 100 times stronger," she wrote. Sony confirmed her departure in an email to Kotaku, but declined to comment further. Drew Harrison is no longer an employee of Sucker Punch Productions, a spokesperson from Sony Interactive Entertainment wrote. So, that gives you some context as to what Sony and Sucker Punch actually thinks of you and I. Rather than make an official statement condemning these people celebrating Kirk's death, they just slipped the information to Kotaku. They have been put in the unenviable position of knowing that they had to fire this person because their words were indefensible, but they don't want to alienate the modern audience, who would likely cancel their pre-orders for the game if they found out that Sony and Sucker Punch were against political violence. After all, for as much as leftists want to make it seem like political violence isn't the norm with them, this tweet here has over 500,000 likes on it, after saying, "Me liking every tweet making fun of Charlie Kirk." But all of that said, there have been canceled pre-orders because of all of this from the other direction on the political spectrum, which is why Sony did have to act. As this ex-user wrote here, "My wife, who isn't political and only learned about Charlie Kirk this week, told me she doesn't want to pre-order Ghost of Yotei anymore because the idiotic stuff said by the devs even made it to Japanese Twitter. If you're losing people like that, you've done goofed." And yes, there does seem to be an epidemic of people choosing not to buy this game now. Now, as you may remember, it was less than a week ago I was talking about the pre-orders for Ghost of Yotei being weak. Most of you likely know by now, but for those who don't, I used to own my own gaming store, and I still have contacts with people in the retail space. In fact, I'm in contact with a few folks who, between them, run almost 50 stores which sell video games. They feed me pre-order numbers so that we can gauge how well a game is tracking compared to previous games. And as of right now, Ghost of Yotei has 47 pre-orders for it spread out among all of these almost 50 stores. The other day, I reported that Yotei had sold 45 copies, meaning that they've gained a couple more pre-orders since last time we discussed this. But here's the thing. Actually, they have reportedly lost 9 pre-orders in these past few days. So what that means, that in the past week, since we've talked about this, Ghost of Yotei gained 11 more orders, but since 9 people got refunds, they only netted 2 more sales. In fact, what is really incredible here is that those 9 refunds represent 20% of the pre-orders that were already ordered. I doubt that the 20% represents the entirety of the market. You can't extrapolate that 20% and assume that that applies to the entirety of the gaming market. That seems a bit high. But clearly, whatever percentage of people were canceling their pre-orders, it was enough to make Sony flinch, so they fired her. The thing is, I think that a lot of the people who dislike what this developer said about Charlie Kirk, I think a lot of them were already avoiding the game. So Sucker Punch and Sony figure that a public statement would cost them even more pre-orders. In other words, they think their audience is the modern audience, and they're probably correct to a certain extent. What is funny though is that with all of these canceled pre-orders, Ghost of Yotei is now barely tracking ahead of Dragon Age the Veilguard. You guys know how I like to compare these games' pre-order numbers to each other. Well, when the Veilguard was 3 weeks out from its release, as Ghost of Yotei is right now, they had sold 42 pre-orders in these nearly 50 stores, and of course, that game went on to flop miserably. We can only hope that the same happens to Yotei. But I'm gonna leave it there. Drop your mockery of Kotaku, Sony, and Sucker Punch into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching me, Hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.